I was looking at games that I could Nuzlocke for my next challenge, and I realised I've never played Pokemon Emerald. I completely skipped it since when I was a kid I played through Omega Ruby, and I've never considered playing it. So I thought, why not do a hardcore Nuzlocke for my first playthrough? People always say it's one of the better games in the series, so I'm going to see if they're correct or if it's just overhyped. Will I be able to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of a game I've never played? Let's find out. Also, stay till the end if you want the definitive answer on if this game's any good or not. To start off my journey, I pick the best Hoenn starter, Trico, and give him the nickname Skittles. This was the Pokemon I chose in 2014 playing Omega Ruby, and he served me well there, so he's going to serve me well today. Then I have a mandatory fight with May, but after a leer and a few pounds, she goes down no problem. I then head back to the lab and get my Pokeballs, meaning the world is now my own. My first encounter is a Zigzagoon I call Reese's, but since he's a Route 1 rodent, I don't expect him to be that good. Then I got my hands on After 8, the Poochyena. She's also not going to be great, but later on when she evolves, she'll have the ability Intimidate, which is the best ability in the game. Any guesses for what my first encounter on Route 102 was? Try it. Oh, I've just got to fucking risk it. So Ralts has teleport. Yeah, that's right, I got a Ralts. When we hit the final evolution, Haribo will have a special attack of 165. Almost guaranteed to one-shot anything in her path. And to do a complete 180, on Route 104 I get Toxic Waste the Wurmple, who evolves into a Cascoon, meaning we'll get Dustox as his final evolution. And finally, in Petalburg Woods, our last encounter before the first gym is Hubba Bubba the Shroomish. And I'm just gonna play the clip. They can die? That's bullshit. Yeah, so we kind of lost Trico. I know I said that he served me well, but how was I meant to know a Pokemon can faint from poison when I've never seen that happen before? I can't dwell on stupid mistakes, so I make my way through the rest of the forest, evolving Toxic Waste, getting my team to the level cap, and finally taking on the first gym. Roxanne starts with a Geodude, so I decide to use the starter killer himself, Hubba Bubba. A Bullet Seed gets 2 4-time super effective hits off, taking the Pebble down before it can even move. She then sends in her second Geodude, who is equally weak to grass as she is specially frail, so another Bullet Seed does the trick, leveling our green mushroom up to level 16 and learning Mega Drain. Do remember that in a hardcore Nuzlocke, the only time the level cap is in play is leading up to the next gym, so gaining a level during a gym battle is perfectly fine. This means last of all is her Nosepass, who is a beast. A Bullet Seed does pitiful damage, not even taking 50% of her health out after 3 hits, so I need to go for plan B. As Nosepass conveniently misses her first Rock Tomb, I set up Leech Seed as my next move to do passive chip damage and get healing every turn. She then does manage to land a Rock Tomb, lowering Hubba Bubba's speed, meaning after getting blocked in real life, we can go for a Stun Spore, slowing her down as well. On the next turn we outspeed, so a Mega Drain plus Leech Seed chip gets her down to potion range, and after a few more long turns doing chip damage and her healing with another potion, we can finally take her out, earning the first gym badge. Easy! I mean, it probably would have been easier with Trico, but oh well. After the first gym, I head over to Route 116 where I can encounter one of 3 Pokemon, Tailo, Nincada, or Skitty. The reason I can only encounter one of these 3 Pokemon is because I stupidly forgot to mention that I'm doing this run with only Hoenn Pokemon. To 1, make the game harder, and 2, to actually see how good this region's Pokemon are. I get really lucky and find an Nincada I call Jellybean. I've decided not to use Shedinja because that's basically just a free win if I know what the trainer's movesets are. I then head over to Rust Earth Tunnel where the only encounter I can get is a Whismur, so I add Chupa Chup to the team and save a man's Wingull from Team Aqua. The man then offers me a free ride to Dewford Town, which just so happens to be home of the next gym. I then decide to get my encounter before taking on Brawly, and with help from Repels, I can make it down to the lowest level of Granite Cave where I have a 20% chance of finding the perfect Pokemon for the gym. First f***ing try? I catch Sableye and name her Nerds, and the reason that this is the perfect Pokemon to take on Brawly is that the only moves his team knows are fighting type, meaning we can spam low-powered moves like Nightshade and Astonish without any issue since they can't touch ghost types, allowing us to earn the second gym badge with one Pokemon. I didn't mention this, but whilst getting to the level cap, After 8 evolves into Mightyena. But since our level cap has increased to 24 after taking on Brawly, everyone else evolves. Jellybean becomes Ninjask, Haribo becomes Curlier, Chupa Chup becomes Loudred, Hubba Bubba becomes Breloom, and finally Reese's becomes a Lanoon. And I just feel like Oprah right now. You get an evolution, and you get an evolution, everyone gets an evolution. I mean, except for Nerds. The old Wingleman gives us a free ride to the next city called Slateport, where in the museum we're attacked again by Team Aqua. But thanks to After 8 and her stab bites, they're taken out with no problem. Meaning we can get a new encounter on Route 110, and with the possibility of it being an Electrike, one of the coolest Gen 3 Pokemon, I really have my hopes up. Only for them to come crashing down because we get a Plusle. This is a Pokemon that no one wants to use, but what makes it worse is Plusle has a 2% encounter rate. So I get an incredible roll for a terrible Pokemon. I add her to the team and give her the nickname Candy Cane, and I suppose she'll be useful for the next fight at least, since May has a Wingull. But oh my god, I did not expect this positively charged bunny rat thing to actually be good. We outspeed and one-shot Wingull, then we land a few sparks on Lombre, sponging its hits, and finally we get a paralysis on Combusken thanks to Thunderwave. However, I unfortunately encounter a dumbass. In this lineup, who would you pick to take on a level 20 Combusken who has just set up Focus Energy? Maybe Haribo with fast super effective confusions, or maybe Nerds who's immune to its stab double kick. If you're feeling lucky, you might even go for After 8 to lower its attack with Intimidate. But under no circumstance would you go for the frail normal type who has access to Mud Sport and is your main component for your next gym strategy. Unless you're me. I told you we encountered a dumbass because the dumbass is me. I have no idea why I did this. This is just such a stupid play. Do you think I went into the fight with a strategy? Because I didn't. There is no reason I should have used Lanoon when I had so many other Pokemon that could have tanked a hit. After the biggest fumble anyone has ever made, I switch into Haribo and 2 confusions take out her last Pokemon. But don't fear, because on Route 117 we have a guaranteed encounter that I can't wait to use. Illumise has access to moves like Encore, Charm, Wish, making it an amazing Pokemon to set up with. In fact, it's one of 3 Pokemon I really want to try in this playthrough, the other 2 being Banette since it has my favourite Mega Evolution, and Cacturne just because I love the design. Oh my god! Illumise is busted. No! Am I the problem? Why do I keep messing up? With being fully annoyed for the day, I go to take on Watson, and I'm really not proud of this strategy. Voltorb was a piece of cake after 2 bites from After 8 take it down. Then Watson brings in Electrike, so I send out Hubba Bubba to Stun Spore before swapping After 8 back in to lower its attack with Intimidate, and then its accuracy with Sand Attack. After the dog is covered in a mountain of sand, I send in Haribo to use 3 Calm Minds, boosting our special attack and special defense before clicking Confusion and getting a knockout. Third out is Magneton, and even though I did all of this preparation to set up, a Confusion still only does 1/3 of its health. So I have to bring in Hubba Bubba to Mach Punch, just missing out on the KO and getting hit with a Thunder Wave. Luckily, our held Cherry Berry cures the paralysis, so after a potion, 2 more Mach Punches take out the magnets. Meaning last of all is Manectric, who becomes helpless due to a combination of Stun Spore and Leech Seed, going down in a few more turns after a final Super Potion, earning us our 3rd gym badge and a well-deserved break. After Watson, I head up to Route 112 and catch a Numel. I never actually end up using it, so I'll only be mentioning Pokemon I use from now on. I do use a Torkoal I find in the Fiery Path, and I name him Starburst. I then make it to Fall Arbor Town and add him to the team. Meteor Falls is home of more story progression, where I meet Professor Cosmos and he tells me to head up the mountain to the volcano. This is where our first fight with Maxie is. I wasn't expecting a fight, so I'm relatively unprepared. He starts with a Mightyena and Starburst is sent out with a bit of damage on him. Intimidate would normally drop our attack, but thanks to the ability White Smoke, we're in the clear, allowing 3 body slams to take out Mightyena with just 25 of our hit points remaining. Second is Maxie's Camerupt, so I send in After 8, and I'm shocked because 2 bites take Camerupt down, and the same goes for Zubat, allowing us to move on to Laveridge City and take on Flannery's gym. Why are you just busted? Why is Mightyena busted? First is Flannery's Flaming Friend, forgoing a fierce flank for a ferocious flog, foolishly fumbling as Jellybean fearlessly fends off the force. Just say that takedown missed. Okay, fine. I swapped Starburst, predicting an overheat as Numel lowers its special attack by 2 stages. I bring Jellybean back in, predicting a magnitude, but all she does is set up the sun. Then I go back and forward, swapping between Starburst and Jellybean to try and lower Numel's special attack from it using overheat. And it doesn't really go to plan because it uses moves like magnitude when I swap Starburst in, meaning it was going to use a ground type move on a flying type. I'm not going to pretend I get why the AI is like this, but I just have to work through it, even if it did take Starburst down to 19 health. I bring in After 8 to lower her attack and accuracy, but I get hit with a magnitude 9 that luckily only does a sliver of damage. After lowering her accuracy a bit, I bring in Nerds and hit a Fake Out and then Detect. At this point, I'm just trying to see what the AI does because it keeps going for magnitude on flying types, so I don't want to make the wrong move and lose a team member. Skipping ahead a bit, I finally feel comfortable bringing in Haribo, and I'll be completely real with you all, the only reason I do this is because I was salty about the Watson fight. A Calm Mind boosted Psychic takes out the Numel as well as her Slugma. Her Camerupt also gets one shot, and finally is her own Torkoal. I just click Psychic and get the victory for another scummy win. Torkoal, please die, you've got 70 special defense. Thank you. Yes! But you know what? I'm not mad about it. Stupid gym leader plus stupid AI means a stupid fight. Okay, so I'm starting to think I need to find a strategy that doesn't involve setting up for a bunch of turns and then trying to sweep, but it is just really addictive. There's no story progression between the 4th and 5th gym, so this just means we're taking on our dad now. Norman starts with a Spinder whose only damaging moves are Facade and Psybeam, 2 moves that Nerd is completely immune to. So after starting with After 8 to lower his attack, I swap out to our Goblin, but we are hit with Teeter Dance. This is no problem since we can go back to After 8, lowering his attack again with Intimidate. Since I don't want any of my Pokemon confused, I get stuck swapping between After 8 and Nerds, doing little damage with Fake Out when Spinder chooses to use Facade. Eventually Spinder stops using Teeter Dance, meaning I can bring in Haribo for a Calm Mind, but Spinder crits a Facade doing 40 HP. I decide it's not worth risking my strongest special attacker on a Spinder, so I swap in Candy Cane to paralyze it, and then I bring in Starburst to use 2 curses. But against all odds, Psybeam gets a Confusion. We hit ourselves once, but then go for a Protect and try to stall out the confusion. Eventually we do snap out and 2 Flamethrowers take the Panda down, but he's already decimated our team. Second is Vigoroth, and I go for a Protect to scout out what move it will go for, and this happens. No! I have no idea what to do now. Once Encore ends, he'll just go for another, locking us into Protect again, so I bring back After 8 and Nerds to lower his attack. Luckily, every time I go for Fake Out and Switch, Vigoroth uses an Encore, meaning he ran out of PP in no time. Thanks to all the Fake Outs, 1 bite from After 8 takes Vigoroth down to red health, meaning 1 more Chomp takes him down as the big boss Slacking is sent in. I've heard Slacking is easy, just protect every other turn and you're golden. But oh my god, this thing is a beast. I bring in Toxic Waste since it's one of my 2 Pokemon who learn Protect at this level cap, and then I click Psybeam as it loafs, and it does absolutely nothing. After I use all of my Protects, Slacking is down to about 1/3 of his health. So I set up a light screen to reduce damage from Feint Attack and bring in Nerds. 2 of our own Feint Attacks bring him into the red, and of course he uses a Hyper Potion. Knowing he'd do this, I bring in After 8 to lower his attack, and then I send in Nerds for more chip damage. But I soon realise I have a Pokemon that can take this monster down. Our little electric bunny, Candy Cane, has the move Fake Tears, which lowers the special defense by 2 each time, meaning a Thunder Wave can cut his speed in half, and then on loafing turns we can lower his special defense, before finally sending in Nerds to hit the most powerful feint attacks in all of Hoenn, 2-shotting the teddy bear. Last up is Lanoon, but since he only has normal moves, a few more feint attacks take him out, earning the victory against our dad and gaining the 5th gym badge. I want to quickly pause because you might be thinking, why didn't he use Breloom? It's because I'm stupid. There's no other way to put it. Leech Seed and Mach Punch would have done amazing, and I just forgot to bring him with me. But we got there eventually, and I'm happy we beat the gym deathless. Something you might be happy with is subscribing to the channel. 93% of people who are watching right now aren't subscribed, and that includes you, so it would mean a lot to me if you scrolled down and clicked the little button, but I don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's get back into the challenge. We get Surf as a new HM, meaning we can head back to Morval City and surf on the water to the east. This then gives us the Good Rod and a Pelipper I name Pear Drop. Then after about 5 minutes of non-stop fishing, I finally find a Carvana I name High Chew. But this is nothing. I take on Team Aqua in the Weather Institute, and with a combination of Candy Cane and Hubba Bubba, the scientist gives me one of the greatest Hoenn Pokemon. Woo! Castform! I call her Gobstopper, and with her access to 100 base power weather balls in any weather condition, and guaranteed hits with thunder in the rain, she's going to be a beast for so many fights. Unfortunately, Winona isn't going to be one of them. However, I finally have a plan that doesn't involve stalling turns to set up, we're just going for raw power. She starts with a Swablu and I use Candy Cane. One spark takes her to a Sliver, and I've messed up already since I have the Thunderbolt TM in my bag. I forgot to teach it to Candy Cane, but there's no issue because Swablu only uses Mirror Move, copying Spark and doing a whopping 5 HP. Winona then wastes a Hyper Potion, meaning a second Spark can take her down to what must be 1 HP, and finally a third hit takes her out. This now baits in Altaria since she has Earthquake, so I switch in our newly acquired Pear Drop, who's immune to our first attack, allowing an Ice Beam to do 4 times super effective damage while she Dragon Dances. One more Ice Beam gets a KO on her Ace, but not before she does a chunk of our health with an Aerial Ace. Third is Tropius, but since it's also 4 times weak to Ice Beam, Pear Drop can take her out before she can lay a, I was gonna say finger, but I mean, I guess a leaf on us. Meaning up next is her own Pelipper. She uses a Protect on the first turn we fly, meaning on the next turn we can deal a small amount of damage before switching back to Candy Cane. But as we switch in, we get confused with a Supersonic. Then I bring in After 8 to remove the confusion and start biting. We actually manage to bring her to potion range, meaning 2 bites can do about 2/3 of its health before we get confused, giving us the chance to bring Candy Cane back in for a knockout with Spark. Now last up is Skarmory, so I bring in Starburst as she goes for a Sand Attack, but thanks to our White Smoke ability, none of our stats can be lowered. This means after an Aerial Ace, 1 Flamethrower can melt the bird for the win against the 6th Gym Leader. The next route is home to another amazing Pokemon, Shuppet, who will soon become a Banette. And honestly, this is a contender for my favourite Gen 3 Pokemon. One Ball does the trick and Ring Pop is sent to the box, but will be used very soon. Then I have a fight with May in front of the Lillicove department store, and the fight isn't really worth mentioning, but the shop is where we can get the TM for Thunder, meaning Gobstopper has access to a 110 base power move that never misses in the rain. Then I have to make my way up Mount Pyre where I find the inferior ghost type of Hoenn, Duskull. Finally, Team Magma and Aqua are morons because they take the wrong orbs. Magma takes the blue orb and Aqua takes the red. This then takes me on a wild goose chase to find the Magma hideout where after a quick Google session, I make my way to the Jagged Pass where a door opens. With strength puzzles and Magma fights galore, I come across Maxie waking up Gordon with the blue orb. Instead of controlling it like he hoped, it angers the legendary and he decides to take his frustration from failing out on me, So the battle begins. He starts off with a Mighty Enna whose only attacking move is Takedown. Hubba Bubba powers through with Mach Punches as our speed gets lowered with Scary Face. 4 hits do the trick after a potion, meaning second up is Crobat. Hubba Bubba stands no chance, so I bring in Candy Cane for a Thunderbolt, almost taking him down in 1 hit, but a Confuse Ray, believe it or not, confuses us. For some reason Maxie switches to Camerupt, so our second Thunderbolt is ineffective. Since we'll die to an Earthquake, I bring in After 8 to lower his attack with Intimidate, and then I switch to Haribo to hopefully do a lot of damage with Psychic. This proves to be a blunder because Camerupt goes for an Amnesia on the switch, meaning our attacks are as effective as a guy trying to read your thoughts by staring at you, instead of the black hole creating monster God of War is. Earthquake then does over 50% to Haribo's health, meaning another switch is in order. I bring in After 8 again just to get another attack drop. A crit would have killed here, meaning I now just need to attack. I bring Hubba Bubba back in because Camerupt for some reason doesn't have any fire moves. This then gives me the opportunity to set up a Leech Seed for chip damage and healing, and a Mach Punch almost takes it down. Then we get really lucky as a takedown does a small amount of recoil, but enough for Leech Seed to get the KO as Maxie's weakened Crobat is out again. And this is where my luck runs out. I thought a Mach Punch will surely kill, but he goes for a potion. No big deal. Then explain why I use a Leech Seed on a 130 base speed Crobat. Why? Right. Why did I think at outspeed? So yeah, I'm dumb. Candy Cane took him out with a Thunderbolt, but oh my god, what is wrong with me? This actually might be the dumbest mistake I've made this run. After that monumental mistake, I have to fly back to Slateport City to stop Team Aqua from getting a submarine. This fails because as soon as we get there, they head off, meaning I now need to fly back to Lily Cove to take on the Aqua hideout. I'll spare you the details because the only thing of note is that we get a Master Ball, and then they sail away for the second time, meaning we can finally go to Moss Deep City, home of the 7th gym. And for this gym, we're going all out. I replace everything and add my Ghost and Dark types, leveling them up and evolving them for my first double gym battle. I start the fight with Dusclops, who I forgot to rename, and Nerds, since her Dark type makes her immune to Xatu and Lunatone. Xatu moves first, going for a Calm Mind, and then Claydol does a bit of damage with an Earthquake. Shadow Ball from Nerds does around 50%, and Shadow Punch from Dusclops does just a sliver less, leaving Claydol on red health. The next turn, Tate and Liza heal the statue, giving us a free turn to take Claydol down to red health again. Then I bring in After 8 to lower Earthquake's damage as they heal Claydol once more. A Shadow Punch does less than 50% to Claydol, and Xatu hits Dusclops with a Psychic, almost taking us down. I now need to switch, so I bring in our newly evolved Haichu, but Earthquake of course crits, almost taking out After 8 before a crunch is finally enough to bring the stupid clay statue down. I now get some classic luck back as Solrock is sent in and a bite from After 8 does over 50%, and that's not even a crit. To play it safe, I send in Haribo and Nerds in place of Dusclops and After 8 respectively, but Haribo gets hit with a Confuse Ray and Solar Beam combination, which luckily doesn't do a lot of damage. Even though she's confused, Haribo lands a Thunderbolt on Solrock and Nerds hits a Shadow Ball, meaning the sun goes down. And with the only damaging move being Psychic type, my Dark types are safe to stay in to take them down for our 7th gym badge of the playthrough. After Tate and Liza, we have a second double battle with Steven against Team Magma, but thanks to Gobstopper's rain-boosted weather balls, they were no issue for us. Beating Team Magma gives us access to the HM Dive, which I promptly use to catch a Clamperl I name Jujubee. For this next section against Team Aqua, I'm forced to have HM users on my team, so I only have 4 available Pokemon, making this section theoretically a lot harder. I then come across the most annoying strength puzzle I've ever seen, and after what feels like 30 minutes, I can finally head through to the final fight against Archie. He starts with a Mighty Enna, and 1 Thunderbolt from Candy Cane gets a one-shot. Then he sends in his Sharpedo, and of course, a super effective hit gets a one-shot. And finally is Crobat, and surprisingly we don't get a one-shot, but a Thunderbolt does get a paralysis. So after he heals with a potion, we can take Archie down for the last time using only a Plusle. Steven then meets up with me and tells us to head over to Sutopolis City because apparently something over there can put an end to the storm. In the underwater section, I'm searching for our only available Pokemon, which is Relicanth. This is another Pokemon I'm really looking forward to using, and since it's only available on 2 routes, and one is where I caught Clamperl, I have a 100% chance of this being my encounter, even if it only has a 5% encounter rate. So let's get on to that encounter and see how good Relicanth can be. Oh my... I mean, it's not Relicanth, but I'll take it. So yeah, my Relicanth dreams aren't coming true, but you're a fool if you think I'm not going to bring a shiny to the Elite Four. There's only one more thing to decide though. What do I evolve it into? Huntail has a higher attack, and Gorbis has a higher special attack, but my main deciding factor is the moveset. If you've been paying attention, you'll have noticed there's one strategy that I've been using that I really need to get out of the habit of. But with Gorbis, all of my dreams for this strategy can come true. I make my way into Sootopolis City where Gordon and Kyle are fighting, but that isn't my problem. So I head into the Pokemon Center to fly all the way back to Dewford Town. Then, using Surf, I can head into this tiny looking abandoned ship, where going in rooms to find keys to unlock rooms to find more keys, I find the item we're looking for, the scanner. Now, I had no idea what this thing did, but after some Googling, I found out that the captain is offering either a C-Scale or a C-Tooth in exchange for the scanner. I essentially throw it at his face in exchange for the C-Scale, and just like that, Candy Corn is now a Gorbis, and the first member of what will be our final team. Then I go over to the Sky Pillar to tell Raymond his kids are misbehaving, and he puts a stop to that immediately. With that anticlimactic cutscene, I put an end to the legendary beef, and we can now take on the final gym like nothing happened. We're up against Hoenn, and the first Pokemon he sends out is his terrifying Love Disc. But he's no match for the plan that me and Candy Corn have cooked up. I mean, just look at this stacked moveset. I told you all I loved setting up, and this is exactly what Candy Corn is here for. The first thing I do is go for an agility to get to +2 speed, as Love Disc does some pitiful damage with water pulse. We then outspeed and set up an amnesia, boosting our special defense as Love Disc hits a second water pulse. It does manage to get a critical hit, but it still does nothing to our shiny eel. Then I go for one more amnesia and start setting up iron defenses for his Whiscash since it has Earthquake. With our defenses boosted, I'm ready to Baton Pass out, but we get hit with a Sweet Kiss, confusing us. One thing I didn't know is that when you Baton Pass out, it takes the confusion with you. Luckily, Gobstopper snaps out on the first turn, allowing me to set up Rain Dance. With the rain up, Thunder will never miss. And this isn't like it's 100% accurate, it literally can't miss. Think of it like Aerial Ace, where unless a Pokemon is invulnerable due to Protect or Dig, it will always hit. As expected, one Thunder takes Love Disc down, and Hoenn sends in Whiscash. I set up a Hail, and the Catfish uses an Amnesia, and on the next turn, Weatherball does a decent chunk of damage. This then makes Hoenn use a Rain Dance, but thanks to our Mystic Water held item, this only makes Weatherball hit harder. Hoenn now heals, wasting a potion that he would normally use on Kingdra, as 2 more Weatherballs get a KO. Third up is Celio, and Thunder fries the seal, getting a one-shot before the rain stops as Crawdon is sent in. This isn't an issue as we outspeed and set the rain back up, and all Crawdon goes for is a Taunt. In Gen 3, Taunt lasts for 2 turns, and since our weather lasts for 5, this doesn't affect us at all, meaning another Thunder gets the knockout on his 5th Pokemon. This just leaves Kingdra, who has Double Team and Rest, and the whole reason I taught Gobstopper Thunder. A neutral Thunder does just over a third of his health, meaning a second hit takes him down to red as he uses Rest and eats a Chesto Berry. On the next turn, Thunder crits, doing insane damage, taking him back to red as he just uses a Double Team. One potion and Rain Dance later, and we're back to where we were, using Thunder and doing about a third of his health. With only a few Thunders left, Gobstopper puts all she has into this last attack and manages to get a critical hit, taking Kingdra down once and for all, earning us our final gym badge. Crit, crit, crit. Yeah! This just leaves 6 fights left in the game. The first obstacle is taking on Wally in Victory Road. He starts with an Altaria, so I go for Gobstopper to set up Hail as he Dragon Dances. We then get outsped, but he foolishly wastes his turn going for a Safeguard, allowing one 4-time super effective Weather Ball to get the one shot on his first Pokemon. Second up is Delcatty, who I didn't realise had a bald spot in this game. But since it's so incredibly weak, I can swap to Haribo without worry that a feint attack will do any damage, and I get a KO with 1 Psychic. Third out is Magneton, and after 1 Calm Mind, a critical hit Psychic takes out his tankiest member. He then brings in Roselia, and then just as quickly returns Roselia. And finally, this leaves a showdown between our 2 Gardevoirs. A Thunderbolt from Haribo does over half of Wally's health, and all he does is set up a future sight, allowing 1 more Thunderbolt to get us the victory in Victory Road, meaning all that is left for us is the Pokemon League. Sydney is our first match, so of course I have to start with Candy Corn. His Mightyena lowers our attack with Intimidate, which is annoying, but I found a way around it. Candy Corn uses an Agility as the big dog goes for a Sand attack, lowering our accuracy. As we go for a second Agility to guarantee we outspeed everything, he hits us with a weak Crunch, meaning on the next turn I can go for a Baton Pass, bringing in Chupa Chups, our Exploud. Normally we'd be going into this with -1 attack and accuracy, but thanks to the white herb found in the flower shop, we can clear all of our stat drops while still keeping our speed advantage. This allows me to get a 1-hit KO with a max power return, meaning Shiftry is out second. As you can imagine, being at +4 speed lets us move first for another quick one-shot. And then the same thing goes for Cacturne. This just leaves 2 Pokemon. He brings in his Crawdon, and a return is just shy of taking him down. A Surf takes us to 70 HP, and since he's in the red, on the next turn he goes for a full restore, allowing me to use a Howl, boosting our attack, ensuring that we can take the Crayfish out in 1 more hit. And up last is his ace Absol, but since our stats are boosted through the roof, 1 final return brings it down for our first victory of the Elite Four. Second up is the Ghost-type member Phoebe, and this is by far the easiest fight we'll have. She starts with a Dusclops and protects on the first turn, meaning Ring Pop's Shadow Ball is ineffective. She then foolishly tries to double protect, which fails, meaning 1 Shadow Ball is more than enough to take her out. Second is her own Banette, but since we have the level advantage, another Shadow Ball does the trick. Then third is another Banette, and just like last turn, it goes down. We actually don't manage to get a one-shot on her second Dusclops, and a Shadow Ball of her own brings us down to 66 health after our Citrus Berry. On the next turn, we do manage to get the kill, meaning all that's left is Sableye, and since we don't always take it out in 1 hit, I swap to our reliable Gobstopper and set up the Rain, since the Gremlin carries Double Team. And with 1 Weather Ball, the second Elite Four member has been decimated. This one's going to be really quick because Glacier was a piece of cake. After setting up with Candy Corn, I'm able to Baton Pass out to the powerhouse that is Haribo, and with our Trace ability, we're able to steal Thick Fat from Celio, reducing all damage from ice moves. A Thunderbolt then goes on to shock the Seal, as well as the Glalie. A Psychic destroys her second Glalie, another Celio also gets 1 shot, and finally her Walrein is fried in 1 hit. One thing I have noticed about this Elite Four is that there's a lot of duplicate Pokemon. And I mean, I'm not complaining. If I can take one out, I can take the other one out, but it really stuck out to me. I head into the final chamber where the only thing standing in my way of taking on the champion is Drake and his dragon types. Drake starts out with a weak Shelgon, and I have to send in Candy Corn. I go for an Iron Defense and he lowers our speed with Rock Tomb. On the next turn, he goes for a Protect, allowing me to set up an Agility for free, and I found out that the Gen 3 AI really wants to be faster than you. So I set up more Iron Defenses and he just goes for a Rock Tomb, trying to lower my speed. After setting up enough Agilities and Amnesias to last a lifetime, I can Baton Pass out to our hero Gobstopper, who is now ready to sweep. Hail turns us into an Ice type, and with 1 boosted super effective Weather Ball, we take Shelgon down as Flygon comes in. Since it's 4 times weak to Ice, a second Weather Ball gets us another KO. He then brings in his ace, Salamence, and thanks to all the Agilities, he doesn't stick around for long. We got really lucky as the hail stops as Altaria is brought out. If we had to set it up last turn, Salamence could have hit us with a super effective flamethrower, but all Altaria can do is waste a move going for Dragon Dance. This means 1 more 4-time super effective Weather Ball knocks the chicken out of the sky as our old pal Kingdra is sent in last. A Weather Ball doesn't get a KO, only doing about 50%, but instead of going for a smokescreen, he tries to outspeed us by setting up Dragon Dance, meaning a final Weather Ball allows us to move on to the champion Wallace. Here we go, the final fight. This battle will determine if me and my team can become champions. Wallace brings out Wailord and I send in Candy Cane. I did a few calculations before the fight and I know Thunderbolt won't get a one-shot, meaning going for it is a great way to waste a full restore. Thunderbolt brings him to the red as Water Spout does 23 damage to Candy Cane. This means Wallace now heals as a second Thunderbolt brings him low once again. I can now press Baton Pass on Candy Cane and bring in our resident setter-upper, Candy Corn. It's time to go for the tried and true method of setting up 2 agilities before swapping out to our oldest Pokemon, the one who will put an end to Wallace, Haribo, our Gardevoir. I set up Calm Minds as Wailord keeps going for Water Spouts that are doing 3 damage apiece. But eventually he clicks Double Edge, knocking itself out, meaning Tentacruel is up next. Thanks to my speed and special attack boosts, I can click a Psychic before he has time to move, getting a one-shot. This then brings in Ludicolo, and even though I have Thunderbolt, Psychic will do more damage due to Stab. And we just miss out on the KO as he sets up a double team. Wallace will now heal this turn, meaning if we don't hit 2 attacks, we could be in trouble. And of course, our 100% accurate Psychic misses. Luckily, on the next turn, we land a hit and it just fails to take it down, and instead of going for a Leech Seed like I feared, it only goes for a double team. We need to hit this next move or we're in serious trouble. I close my eyes and Haribo hits the Ludicolo, taking it down, meaning things are looking up. We then have to deal with the stupid Whiscash who's immune to Thunderbolt, and just like Ludicolo, Psychic doesn't take it down, allowing it to set up an Amnesia. Wallace then uses a full restore, giving me a free hit, and oh my god, it doesn't even do half. But Haribo doesn't even care about that, because she gets a critical hit, ignoring the special defense boost, taking Whiscash out. Meaning Wallace now brings in Gyarados, but come on, we have Thunderbolt. And out last is his ace, Milotic. Like most of his team, one Thunderbolt doesn't get a KO, allowing the Milotic to hit us with a Surf, and after eating our berry, one more Thunderbolt does the trick as Milotic goes down, making me and my team champions of the Hoenn region. And now, this is the moment you've been waiting for. The definitive answer on if this game is any good or not. Yeah, it was good.